can't believe it's been that long, but in their landmark book, it was a business book, titled Built to Last. Anybody read that a few years ago or since then? Um, Jim Collins and Jerry Perez coined a phrase in that book that's become part of the just common vernacular in our culture. It's best known as an acronym. Anybody know the acronym that I'm referring? Cutuses, you're back from the Great White North. Sorry, just I wasn't expecting to see you so soon. So welcome back. Anybody know what the? Is it on the screen? Oh, come on, you gotta wait. You gotta wait. Okay, it's that. It's BHAG. BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. Big, hairy, audacious goal, and that came from this book, Built to Last, and the work of Jim Collins and company. Well, about 10 months ago, we officially rolled out a BHAG of our very own around here, a big, hairy, audacious goal, and we called it Unrestrained. Anybody remember that? Yes, yeah, that's good. I'm glad you do. It's Unrestrained, and it's a goal to significantly expand our building. Not for the sake of having a bigger building. That's not what this is about. It is for the sake of increasing our capacity to do ministry, increasing our ministry effectiveness through an expanded facility. And in case you've forgotten, or there have been a lot of new people who've come around since then. We did this all the way back last October. Can you believe it's been that long ago? But in case you've forgotten, things gotten fuzzy, or if you weren't around then, let me just tell you the plan, all right? We, through conversation and prayer and study and all that stuff, we determined 3 major priorities that we need to address in terms of building expansion. And the first of those is our children's ministry space, and for 3 reasons. One is just simply for space. We just keep growing, and we keep adding families with children, and the spaces that we have currently are some of them are bulging at the seams. And we don't see an end to that, hopefully ever, but certainly anytime soon. And so we keep getting creative with our spaces and doing all of that, but we desperately need to expand just the physical space for our children's ministry. And then another issue within children's ministry, security is a big issue these days. If you've been to schools and you just tried to just walk in unannounced, you can't do that anymore. And so security is a big, big issue, and it's also an issue in churches. And right now, we do the best that we can. We have multiple check-in stations, and we try to make sure that our spaces are secure and that parents feel comfortable leaving their kids in those spaces. But truthfully, we've got them kind of strung out all along the building. And so one of the big issues that we're trying to address with building children's ministry space is the security issue. And that'll be built into the design of it. And then the third part of that, children's ministry, is just functionality. Like I said, we've got on that whole north end of our building, we've got kids ministry kind of strung out throughout the building, and we've got little bitty preschoolers going up and down a huge long flight of stairs, and parents getting them up and down there and all that stuff. And so just functionality. So that's one of the priorities, is to deal with our children's ministry space. The second priority is what we're calling common space, meaning for your traffic flow, all those kinds of things. If you're the kind of person that really loves lots of people in a little bitty space that's really loud, we've got just the foyer for you. Actually, I get kind of a buzz out of things like that, lots of people in a small space, really loud, but not everybody does that. I understand. And whether that gives you, a little bit of a buzz or not, we have issues with that, and we just need to address our traffic flow issues. And so that's one of the, and the proposal, and we'll show you here in a second, is to significantly expand just common space and traffic flow space in this plan. And then the third of these three priorities is our youth ministry space, meaning middle school, high school space. And truthfully, it's not so much about we're not running out of space in that area. So it's not so much about just creating enough space. It's really about functionality and effectiveness. We've got a great children's ministry. We have a great middle school, high school ministry, and we want to resource them and help them and encourage them and equip them every way that we can. And that's why we're talking about expanding youth ministry space. It's about functionality and effectiveness. We don't have a space for the middle school, high school ministry to call their own. And to really just dedicate it to that youth and make it as effective as possible. And so that's our third of the three priorities. By the way, we get this question often, what about like worship space? And our plan is not at the moment to expand our worship space. It's we figure we can address that other ways. We can add services. We can do 3 services, 4 services, 5 services, whatever we need to do, and just use this room over and over without addressing that issue at the moment. So let me show you the floor plan. Okay. This is when it's good to have the big side screens, right? You can see it a little bit better on there. Everything in the dark gray is what we currently have. It's actually turned, this, I wish I had a pointer, that where it says lobby right there, that's facing the highway. And so on this south end would be our new children's ministry space, and that's what this big rectangle is all the way across the bottom. All the way across the front of that is where the new proposed lobby and just common space, traffic flow space would be. And I know you can't see all the details, and we don't need to go into all the details this morning. But then on the far back side, which would be back here to the west, beyond what's currently our children's ministry, our elementary worship room, is a new youth center, a new youth worship space. And we would also transition what's currently some of our children's ministry space into youth ministry space, and then add additional space. And so that's the floor plan. That's the projected project. Some of you have seen this, but we had a company do this for us to put together a little kind of fly-through, kind of a virtual fly-through. And here's the disclaimer, okay? Some of these decisions have not been made yet, like what materials exactly we'll use on the front elevation and what the interior colors will look like and all that. So this is just an artistic rendering to give you a look and a feel, but don't hold us to this, all right? This is to help you. Some people look at this and just say, that just doesn't help me much. That doesn't do much for me. But when you kind of do a virtual fly-through, you're like, oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. So don't hold us to, some of the colors and finishes and all that kind of stuff. Those are decisions that are still to be made. But watch this, all right? That help? So something like that. Okay, that's the layout of the space. Maybe not the exact look and feel of the space, but something along those lines. We just haven't talked about this for some time and had a lot of little side conversations, but we haven't just really addressed it publicly for a while. And so just thought it was high time that we did that. And maybe some of you are asking, where are we in the process? We rolled this out last October, and where are we in the process? So step one was to determine what we think we need to build and what we think with God's help we can actually build. It's a fine line of not underbuilding spaces that we really think that we need and would really help move us forward, but not overbuilding, not just building the dream house, of something that we actually can't afford to pull off in any way. And so we've been seeking the mind and heart of God and hopefully following the leadership of God's Spirit and all those things and having important conversations. And so we've determined what we need to build and what we think we can actually build. And then step two was to make a plan, and that's been happening for quite some time. And step three was to make a huge financial ask. I put the hard K on the end of that word. So a huge financial ask in order to raise just, frankly, a boatload of money because this stuff just costs lots of money to be able to do this. And so we did that last October. We didn't raise all the money last October. We made the ask last October over a series of a few weeks, and we invited everybody, me included, all of us. We invited everybody to be a part of it, and so many of you have stepped up to the plate. So many of you. And we're so deeply thankful, grateful. And some of you have stepped up in hugely generous and even sacrificial ways. And by the way, when I say hugely generous and sacrificial, that's not always about the total dollar amount. Thank the Lord that there are folks among us who have significant financial capacity and are able to help us make a huge dent in this. And thank the Lord for that, and that they're being generous. But generous and sacrificial can happen no matter what level your income is at. Because it's not necessarily about the total dollar amount. It's about with what God has given me at this particular juncture in my life, how am I leveraging that or some portion of that for this important kingdom venture that we're doing. And so I just need to say again, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. Thank you for your engagement in this. In fact, let me just talk us through the money for a moment, okay? Everybody loves to talk about money in church, so let's do that for a minute, okay? Let's just the estimated total cost of our project is $5.5 million, and that's a lot of money. $5.5 million. And it sounds completely crazy until you go to buy a house these days, and then you discover, oh, yeah, you could, starter homes are $350,000 and, whatever, and up these days. It's just insane, and things just cost a lot of money. And so the total projected cost is $5.5 million. And I say the estimated total cost because we're not working with hard numbers yet, because we haven't actually taken all this out to bid yet. You can't get real bids, a year in advance or 2 years in advance. People can give you maybe kind of a ballpark number, but it's not a real number because nobody knows what the economy is going to be doing then, or whatever, all the variables. And so this is an educated guess, but it's still an estimated cost. And we want to wait until we get fully drawn construction documents and are actually ready are really, really close to ready to build, so that we're not asking them to give us a bid for something that's happening a year from now, but something that we're getting ready to launch into right now, so that we can get real numbers and we can get competitive bids. And so right now we're working with estimated costs, not real costs, but we think it's educated guess. So $5.5 million projected project cost for the whole thing, for all three phases of that, all three parts of that. We started with approximately $700,000 in hand. When, in October, when we rolled all this out, we had about almost $700,000 in hand. And that came from two sources. One is some gifts along the way that we accumulated, and the other is that we paid our mortgage off a few years ago. And since then, we didn't just say, oh, good, our mortgage is paid off so we can spend that money doing other things. We said, no, we might still have somewhat of a mortgage at some point, so we're going to keep that in the budget. And we've just been paying ourselves our mortgage payment. And not only have we been paying ourselves our mortgage payment, but we've been increasing that by a third year over year since we did that, trying to get to the place where we're actually paying ourselves. Well, this leads into the next one. We're willing to carry up to $1 million of indebtedness, and we've capped it there to say we're willing to carry up to $1 million of indebtedness, but not beyond that. And so what we're doing is we've been increasing what we're paying to ourselves, so that we're practicing paying a mortgage payment to service $1 million of indebtedness. We'd rather carry no indebtedness. If the Lord can help us do that sooner than later, we're wide open to that. But up to $1 million, and that brings us from 5.5 minus 700,000 minus $1 million down to $3.8 million. Is that right? Is that the right math? 3.8 million that we need to raise, which sounds better than 5.5 million, doesn't? $3.8 million that we need to raise, and ideally we're trying to raise it over a 3-year period. When we rolled it out in October, we added just a few months to it, but all the way through the end of December, whatever year that is. So 3 years and a couple months, and so ideally, if we need to stretch that out a little bit, we will, but ideally we're trying to raise that in 3 years' time. And to date, we have received pledges. This is not real money, this is pledges of 2.9 million. Of the 3.8 that is our goal, we've received pledges of 2.9 million, which includes a few gifts in kind. A parcel of land has been given to us that will at some point be turned into actual cash money. Some materials and services toward the project that are substantial, like real materials and services toward the project, have been pledged to us that will whack some substantial money off of the cost of the project. And so that's part of that 2.9. We have, to this point, we have received actual cash gifts of $1.6 million. $1.6 million of actual cash gifts. And I just say, that's incredible. Yay, God. And I think we ought to celebrate that together this morning. That is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. However, to fully accomplish the entire proposed project, we still need pledges of $900,000 to fully fund this project. $900,000, which just happens to be the proposed cost of the youth ministry building, the middle school, high school building, the $900,000. And we said all along, our heart's desire, and we're trusting God to help us, and we're praying that God helps us, and we're asking all of us to rally to this and help make it a reality. But if something has to be pushed, if something has to wait, not be canceled, but if it has to wait, then it will be the expansion of the youth building. And basically that's kind of what we're lacking with that $900,000 at this point. We need another $900,000 to fully meet our pledges, and we need actual receipts of another 2.2 million to be at our 3.8. All right. So deep breath. All right. Right now, we're still working with the architects, and we're still working out all the nitty-gritty details. And the deeper you get into it, the more nitty and gritty the details become. Right? If anybody's done a home building project or a business building project, then you know there are lots of nitty-gritty details that have to be worked through, and we're in process of working through all of those. We actually changed architectural firms midstream, which slowed us down in the process a little bit, but we think it's going to save us actually tens of thousands of dollars on the project. And so we changed architectural firms midstream. And by we, I mean the steering team that's helping, the small team that's helping give direction, kind of big picture direction to this project and keep it moving forward. We currently have a bi-weekly meeting, so every 2 weeks we meet with the architects. And there's usually some engineers and other people in those meetings, and they're working with various entities. They're working with engineers and the powers that be. They're talking to the city and the county and the state and all the people that you have to talk to along the way. And we're having that meeting every 2 weeks. And very soon we'll be done with the lion's share of the planning work. And then, and kind of pre-approvals are happening along the way, bringing the city into the conversation, things like that. But at some point, we'll have to get the actual approval from the city with permits and all that, so that we can at some point officially break ground and do some stuff that people can see. Like, it'll look like something is actually happening. It'll look like we're moving this thing forward. And of course, there's a lot of variables involved in that, on the timing of that. We were trying really, really hard to make this a late fall, maybe early winter this year, groundbreaking. And there's a tiny outside chance that maybe we could still get there, but it's looking more and more like it'll probably happen like early next year instead of late this year, just because of all the parts and pieces to this, and pending the timing of cash flow too. That's an issue. One of the big things you can help us pray about. This is really important. Very early on in our planning, like a couple years ago, we had a conversation with KDOT, Kansas Department of Transportation, about if we build anything here, are you going to require us to do anything with access or any of that? Are you worried about traffic flow onto the highway, all those kinds of things? They said, no, I think you're good. Time has passed, and now they're starting to make rumblings like, well, maybe. And maybe an acceleration, deceleration lane, whatever, which, if we were a developer, that would be on us, right, to do that. And then they take it over and maintain it and all that. And we want desperately for people to be safe out here. We want desperately for people to be safe coming and going. But that's a huge, potentially a huge unanticipated possible expense. So here's what you can help us pray. Number one, pray that the state of the department, the state highway department, would have favor on Grace Community. Here's what works in our favor. This highway is getting busier and busier and busier all the time, except Sunday morning. It's not all that busy, and that's our busiest time. It's not our only time, but it's our busiest time. And so we're hoping, they're actually in the process of doing a traffic study right now, and then they'll let us know, and we'll get the results of that soon. What works in our favor is that Sunday morning is not peak traffic time out here, but if they come back with worst case scenario news, we're praying that the Lord will open up some resources. If some of you even, and the part of the reason I'm sharing this, maybe you know about grants or something that would, I know the city of Spring Hill got like a $5 million grant to put this new road in across the highway from us, and there are grants possibly available to help do some things like that. So I just invite you into that. Help us pray about that, and we'll see where all this goes. So that's where we are currently. And I'm sorry it does not look like much has happened yet. At least from the outside looking in, doesn't look like much has happened yet, but we're actually making progress. Sometimes it's painstakingly slow progress, which is why my hair is thinning these days. It's painstakingly slow. It drives me absolutely bananas. And the more people you have involved, the more people you have speaking into the project, then the slower it goes. But we know it's important to have people, we invite the ministry teams and people to speak into this project and help us think through stuff. And it slows it down so much, but the product at the end will be better. And it's painstakingly slow, but we are making progress. Thanks be to God. But let's spend a little time on this one really, really important question again. Shall we? It's a little bitty word, just 3 letters, but it's a great big question. In fact, ask it with me. We'll put it up here on the screen so that everybody knows what we're asking, all right? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Why? That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. Why in the world would we take on this big, hairy, audacious plan? Why would we even worry about, expanding anything? Can't we just just come and just love on each other and, sing Kumbaya and hold each other's hand? And why would we ask and expect people to invest in huge and even sacrificial ways? Why? Are we crazy? Maybe. Maybe a little bit of that, but are we greedy? I don't think that's it. In fact, this isn't even really about us. This is mostly about people who aren't even a part of us yet. Are we glory seeking? Are we just like? Are we want to be able to say, look at us, look at this building? Are we, building a monument to ourselves? I don't think that's it either. I think the only one, God knows our hearts completely, but I think the only one we're seeking to glorify in all this is God, not ourselves. So no, it's none of those things. It's because of the mission God has given us. That's why, period. It's because of the mission God has given us. The mission of making the great good news of Jesus known in a really, really broken and hurting world. Have you noticed that we live in a really broken and hurting world? And Jesus has given us the mission, the commission, to go into a really broken and hurting world and introduce everyone we can into this even better life, the one we've been talking about over the past several weeks, the even better life that Jesus offers. Our first responsibility is right here in our own community, and then to ever-widening circles to eventually touch the whole world, which God is helping us do, literally, on an ongoing basis. But that's why. That's the only reason why. If you were here last week, perhaps you remember these words from Jesus, Matthew chapter 6, verse 21. In fact, read it with me, would you? Let's read it together. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Once more. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I'm gonna ask you to do something with me, okay? Just play along for just a moment, all right? I'm gonna utter 5 of the scariest words some of you can think of, all right? They're words. Turn to someone near you, okay? Those are the scariest words that some of you can think of. Turn to someone near you. But wait, not yet, okay? Here's what I want you to do. Hopefully you're sitting close to someone that you trust and has a friendly face and all that. So if not, you're on your own. But turn to someone near you and spend 90 seconds, no more. I'm going to cut you off at 90 seconds. 90 seconds talking for just 90 seconds about what you think this means. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. 90 seconds. What do you think that means? Go. You got 90 seconds. Here we go. Some of you are like, I only needed 10 seconds for that. So, all right. You can just get acquainted with each other for the rest of them. Okay, by the sound of things, you only needed 45. We're done. So that's all right. I need the rest of the time anyway. So that was an experiment. Did you learn anything? Did you learn anything? We won't take time to share with the class, but here's what I think it means. I think it means something like this: that which you really count as valuable, that which we treasure, right? That which we really, really count as valuable, that which we treasure, captures our hearts. It captures it by our hearts. It means our mind, our imagination, our attention, our allegiance. So that which we really, really treasure, that which we really count as valuable, captures our hearts. It captivates our mind, our imagination, our attention, our allegiance. And when that happens, this verse also becomes true in reverse. I think it can also be read the other way. For where your heart is, there your treasure will be also. Not only where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, but where your heart is, there your treasure will be also. That which captures your heart also gets the investment of your focus, your attention, your time, your energy, your money. It's true, isn't it? If you treasure your kids, and I hope you do, but if you treasure your kids, then your kids get a major investment of your focus, your attention, your time, your energy, your money. If you treasure your bank account, then it gets a major investment of your focus and your time and your energy and your money. And if you treasure your Hollywood body, then it gets a major investment of your focus, your attention, your time, your energy, your money. If you treasure your boat, it gets a major investment of your focus, your attention, your time, your energy, your money. That's just the way it works, right? That's just an observation. It's just the way it works. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, and vice versa. Where your heart is, there your treasure will be also. And so what I'm saying is this $3.8 million ask might seem completely crazy. And maybe it is. But when our hearts are captured by Jesus, when he is the great treasure, capital T, treasure of our lives, it just doesn't seem all that crazy anymore. Challenging, maybe. Crazy, Not so much. So that's the big why. It's the mission of Jesus. It's the mission of Jesus. But let me show you a couple other related but lesser reasons why as well, okay? For one, have you noticed, maybe you don't live in the Spring Hill community, but even if you don't, you probably noticed, have you noticed our community is growing? Look at this. Look at this graph. We moved here in 1990. That's not even on the graph. And, Spring Hill community was like a couple thousand people, a little over a couple thousand people. Now we're at 10,216 in the city proper. And beyond that, but look at the last few years, it's been, we're growing at a 5.44% annual rate, and 26.03% since the 2020 census. Over 23% since the 2020 census. I was sitting in a meeting with the city recently, and they said we're the fastest growing community in the state of Kansas, and we're the fastest growing community in the Kansas City metro area. Here's a question. How many people, if you were to stick a pin on our campus and have a 3-mile string and do a circle all the way around us, so how many people do you think live within a 3-mile radius around this building? We were in a board meeting the last couple weeks ago with our district superintendent, and he actually asked us this. And we've done demographic studies, and we just haven't done much for a little while. And he asked us this, and he asked, how many people do you think live within a 3-mile radius? Do you have that picture? Yeah, that 3-mile radius right there. What would you guess? Anybody? Don't study it too hard before you guess. Just guess. Come on. 5,000. 20,185 people within a 3-mile radius of our campus. And growing like crazy. And that's a 3-mile radius. And people will drive more than 3 miles to a church. One more graphic, just for fun, and we won't study this, but look at this. This is our story. Since 1988, we started in 87, we started reporting statistics to our denomination. And so I just want to show you that to say, it hasn't been a smooth ride, but it's been largely up and to the right since we started as a church. You know what this says? It says we are growing too. As a congregation, as a church, we're growing too. Sunday AM worship attendance before summer hit, when everybody goes, pew. But our Sunday AM, and we do try to take a head count, mostly just so we can kind of track. We're not like saying, oh, they're missing today. So pretty soon we're going to do retinal scans as you come. No, But our Sunday AM worship attendance between our two services and kids and everybody in the building before summer hit was about the mid 400s, right in the mid 400s. Our kids ministry last week, our head count was 407 people in the building, so we're recovering from the summer. But we had 104 elementary age, fifth grade and down, 104 out of the 407 who were in the building. 104 were in our kids ministry. Teens, last Sunday night, middle school, high school. Somebody told me they had 75 middle school, high school students here last Sunday night for the back to school bash. In fact, they have a little video. I think we have that. Do we have that? Somebody just took the camera out on that. Just to show you that, to just simply say we're growing in every aspect of our ministry. We're growing, which is one reason we need to build, because we're growing. Thanks be to God, and our community is growing. Some churches live in dying, shriveling communities, and we're not one of those. We're living in a rapidly growing community, and so we not only have an opportunity, but we have a responsibility, guys. We have a responsibility to grow. Because our job is to make Jesus known to more and more and more people, as many people as we possibly can. And so that's another reason that we need to build. Is this making sense? So what do we do? What do we do? Well, those of you who have already made a generous pledge, we need you to keep turning your pledge into real money. Because we can't build anything on pledges. So we need for you to keep turning your pledges into real money. And if you made a pledge back in October or whenever, if you made a pledge, but truth be known, you can and even want to do more. We won't hold you to your original pledge. Feel free to expand it, to increase it, to reach more deeply. You can do that. If you heard some of this before, but truth is it just didn't capture your heart. And your heart is still chasing some other treasure. And this hasn't been part of it, and you just couldn't quite convince yourself to pledge anything, then I would encourage you, come on in. Better late than never. We need everyone for this. It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. We need everybody to make this happen. And or if you're just now hearing about this, you've been new around here over the last weeks or months or whatever, and you're just now hearing about this, and you want in, then we would love to have you. We would love to have you. In fact, we really, really, really need you, especially if we're going to build the youth center as a part of this project, right away. So we really need you. So that being said, hopefully you got a bulletin, and in your bulletin there's a card that looks like this. There's no sermon notes, but there's a card that looks like this. And we would love for you to fill this out and hand it in. And if you need to, it's not like we don't want to make an emotional appeal. We just want you to prayerfully consider this, take it home, talk about it, do whatever you need to do, and then bring it back to us, and we'll see where all this goes, okay? We won't do that closing song, guys, because we need to do this, all right? One more thing. We titled this whole project Unrestrained. Unrestrained, and I titled today's talk Unrestrained Revisited. And the whole unrestrained idea came originally from the Old Testament book of Exodus, a story in the Old Testament book of Exodus, of all places. It goes this way. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to bring me an offering. You are to receive the offering for me from everyone whose heart prompts them to give." I love that language. From everyone whose heart prompts them to give. And then have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them. And we know the Old Testament, we won't go into all that, but Old Testament idea of sanctuary is different than now, because we are the sanctuary of God. And so have them make a sanctuary for me. And Moses said to the whole Israelite assembly, this is what the Lord has commanded. From what you have, take an offering for the Lord. I like that. From what you have. Like, don't go out and rack a gift up on your credit card. But from what you have, take an offering for the Lord. And everyone who is willing It just over and over uses the same language. For everyone who is willing to bring to the Lord an offering of gold and silver and bronze. And then the whole Israelite community withdrew from Moses' presence, and everyone who was willing and whose heart moved them came and brought an offering to the Lord for the work on the tent of meeting, or the sanctuary. And all who were willing, men and women alike, came and brought gold, jewelry from all kinds, brooches and earrings and rings and ornaments. So they were like, reaching into their personal stash of jewelry to help make this happen. And all the Israelite men and women who were willing brought to the Lord free will offerings for all the work the Lord through Moses had commanded them to do. And the people continued to bring free will offerings morning after morning. So not just a one-shot deal, but over and over and over and over. They kept bringing the free will offerings morning after morning. And so all the skilled workers who were doing all the work on the sanctuary left what they were doing. And they said to Moses, the people are bringing too much. The people are bringing more than enough for doing all the work that the Lord commanded. That's a great problem, isn't it? Just all this stuff, all these earrings are just, they're getting in the way. They're bringing too much, stuff. And then Moses gave an order, and they sent this word throughout the camp: no man or woman is to make anything else as an offering for the sanctuary. And so the people were restrained from bringing more, because what they already had was more than enough to do all the work. And I don't know, somewhere before we rolled all this out, I read that story again, and this word restrained jumped off the page at me. And I just thought about, wouldn't that be cool? Because of unrestrained gratitude to God for what he's done for us. Unrestrained gratitude that issues forth in unrestrained generosity for the sake of unrestrained mission. To the point where we just have to say, hey guys, that's good. We're good for the moment, all right? Wouldn't that be something? Let's stand.